Aloha and welcome to E50. This is the second part of the Digits application development project. Today, in this video, we're going to create the list contacts page. And when we're done, it's going to look like this. And so let's get started, shall we? No, let's not get started. Let's first talk about the prelude, which is the stuff to do before you get started. Definitely watch this screencast for the first time before trying the WAD. Take notes, but don't just start and stop the video and go through it. Then you're just learning how to copy and paste. It's not really helping you learn the experience, but you can take notes as you watch the video, and that's totally fine. We're going to be doing some branching and merging, so you definitely want to understand that, and then look at all the other readings. And I'm serious about that. You'll learn a lot from looking at the Meteor guide. So again, you have a couple days for each of these WADs, so spend some time on the readings. All right, so the first thing you need to do is you need to now make the master branch reflect the latest state of development. So hopefully because you're here, you've successfully completed Digits 1, which means you've got a branch called landing page 1 or landing page 2 or maybe landing page 3 that successfully implements the landing page. And so what we want to do before we start this practice WAD is we want to merge our results of landing page, one of our landing page branches, which has a functioning version of the landing page, back into master. Okay, and this is the way a lot of professional development works, is that the master branch represents the good working most recent version of the system. You do development in these other peripheral branches. Once you have a feature implemented in a branch, you merge it into master so that it now becomes part of the overall product. And that's the process we're going to be using all the way through Digits. So to start, you go to this desktop, and we say merge into current branch. I'm going to pick landing page 2, and it's going to merge one commit, and then we'll push the results so that now our new master branch, which contains the landing page, theoretically, if I did things right, now is at GitHub as well as locally. So does it have the landing page? Well, let's look. Well, there's the landing page, and that looks pretty good. But to check, we should actually run the system, right? So we're going to run the system right here inside IntelliJ. That way we can kind of monitor the console output as it's refreshing and so forth. And if there's any errors, we should hopefully see them pretty soon. So let's cd into the app directory. And then we'll do meteor npm run start. And as you note, right, Meteor was not running when we were doing that branching and merging stuff. So when you're manipulating GitHub, you don't want to have Meteor running. In general, you don't want to have any application running based on the code in a directory which is changing because you're merging changes and so forth. Okay, so now localhost 3000 should theoretically have what we need. And so let's go here, localhost 3000, let's refresh. No errors. And indeed, our landing page has exactly what we want. Again, to note, I'm going to do development with this, the DevTools screen open all the time, all right? Except when I maybe just want to quickly look at something or show you something. And that's so that if there are any errors in our client, we'll immediately see them. Okay, and the other thing to note, I'm using the Meteor DevTools Evolved tab. That gives us access to Mini Mongo and subscriptions. That can be very helpful for debugging as well. Yeah. Okay, so we won't be, that'll actually be, this will become more useful maybe in one more screencast, or maybe two. I don't remember which. But for right now, I just want to keep reiterating that we want to have that DevTools installed and we want to have this open. Okay, so everything's set up. We've got Meteor NPM representing. Localhost has the results of our last practice WAD. And so we now want to start the timer. And we ought to create a page called list contacts page 1 off of the master branch and publish it to GitHub. So we can go back to GitHub desktop and we can say new branch. And it's going to be called list contacts page 1. And we'll say create, and what the heck, let's publish it to GitHub. We'll eventually publish it to GitHub anyway, but might as well do it right now. And go back to here, and we've got Meteor NPM run start already going. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is create this list contacts page, and the way I recommend you do it is we've got a template list page called listcontacts.jsx, and so what we'll do is we'll make a copy of it, call it list contacts, and rename list stuff to list contacts. So where's our list stuff? Our list stuff is here, so I'll propeller C it, propeller V it, I'll call it list contacts. Okay, and then wherever we see list stuff, we can propeller R it and change it to list contacts. And we'll do a replace all, which is going to replace 3 of them. Okay, remove the code to render the table and change the header text to list contacts. Add inverted as a property. Okay, so remove the code to render the table. That's that. Change the header to list contacts. And add inverted, so it's going to show up in white. Okay. All right, so we did all that. And then in app.jsx, specify list contacts rather than list stuff as the component to be rendered when the path is list, and fix the import. So this is in layouts, app.jsx. When we're doing a list, we're going to do list contacts, and then we can say import list contacts from pages list contacts, and then we delete this one because we don't need it anymore. And let's see. Okay, so we did that. Finally, in components navbar.jsx, change the link from list stuff to list contacts. So now in navbar, change the link from list stuff to list contacts. Okay, log in as john@foo.com to see your changes. When you finish this part, your list contacts mockup should look like that. All right, let's see if we got there. So we'll log in as john@foo.com using our super secret password. List contacts. And then, yeah, looks good. Okay, so so far so good. Got that. Okay, 3, provide sample data. So normally, right, we normally want to get our data out of a database, but databases are a little tricky, you know? So what I'm doing for this section is saying, let's just make sure that we get the layout of the data to look right, not worrying about the database yet. And the way we can do that is we have this mockup data that will just stick into the class, and we'll refer to that rather than making a subscription, pulling the data out of the database, and so forth. So this is a really nice way to do kind of rapid prototyping. So we generate some sample data. I didn't want to make you type all that. That seemed like painful. And so you can just copy it here, and then we go to list contacts, and what we'll do here is rid of this, and we know something's wrong with our import. Oh yeah, we don't have a table anymore. And we don't have a stuff item anymore. And I wonder if I've just messed up my, I bet you I have. Oh no, okay, cool. So I've just pasted in, I've made a new field in our class called contacts, and that field, which can be referenced by this.contacts in any instance, is bound to an array with data about 3 contacts. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we provided the sample data. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to create a card component to hold that data. So the kind of analogous file in the template is stuff item. It's the component that holds that displays an individual item. We need a component to display an individual contact. So we'll start with this one because it seems like it's kind of close to what we want. So we'll take stuff item, propeller see it, and propeller v it as contact. Okay, and then we are going to want a propeller r stuff item into contact. Replace all. Okay, and let's go back to the directions. Okay, so we renamed internal references of stuff item to contact. The contact component will be passed to contact as a property. Okay, the contact is an object with the structure shown above. So each contact is going to be one of these. So that means that down here we have to declare that there's a property called contact which is going to be passed in, and it is indeed an object and it is indeed required. Okay, use the card documentation to render a card that contains a first name, last name, address, image, and description. So let's open that link in a new tab and try to figure out what it is we want to do. And the cool thing about Semantic UI is it gives you all this boilerplate code. So like, for example, if you wanted to make a card that looked like that, you could just click the try it, and there's your the code you need to render a card like that. I don't really like that one for this. Maybe you do. I mean, you could go ahead and you can use any of these. I don't care. The one I actually kind of like the best are these guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find me a card, and I'm going to copy. Whoops, didn't quite get it all. I'm going to get all that code, and then I'm going to go back over to my contact, and instead of returning a table row, I'm going to return a card. Okay, so we got to fix this to say card so that it understands these things. It looks like we need an image, so let's add that in, and we're not going to have any links. So we'll get rid of that. Okay, so now we have to figure out that we're going to be passing in a contact, right? And then we're going to use that object that we pass in to populate these fields. Okay, so let's go back and look at list contacts for a second. We've got a first name, last name, address, image, and description is our fields. So we go back to contact. Our source is going to be not this, hardwired Steve dude, but instead it's going to be the value of this .props .contact. That gets us our object. So this .props, remember, inside React class, this .props is going to be bound to whatever our properties are. It's going to be a field with, it's going to be an object with fields as specified here, and here we're just saying there's one contact. And so we'll say this dot props dot contact dot image, because here in our sample data file you see we have a field called image. All right, so that's the image, and then the header, we want to probably have the first name and the last name, so it'd be this dot props dot contact dot first name, and then with a space, this dot props dot contact dot last name. Okay, and then the meta field, that could be what? Maybe we'll make that the address. So this, whoops, this dot props dot contact dot address goes in there. Then the description field can be the description. This dot props dot contact dot description. And I'm realizing what would have been cool is we could have up here in the render method, we could have we have it a const, contact equals this dot props dot contact, then we wouldn't have to repeat that every single time. You try that. It's left for the reader. Okay, then we don't need any of this extra stuff, which gets rid of our button, which we don't have defined anyway. And what does this mean? Okay, it means nothing. All right, so move this down, and where's our terminal? Okay, so the terminal is good. So now we got the check mark, so ESLint is happy. And if we go back to our, so we've rendered a card that contains a first name, last name, address, image, and description. Okay, so now edit the list context component to render card.group below the heading. So edit the list context component to render a card group. Card group. Okay, and card groups are ways to, you need to actually import that class, the card class, so the card group is not defined. So card groups are ways, is a React object that allows you to have layouts of cards, a set of cards, in a, that looks good. Okay, so inside the card group, map through this dot contacts, passing a function that takes two arguments, contact index, and returns an invocation of the contact component, passing two properties, key with the index and contact with the contact. Okay, that is a lot of thought. There's a lot of thinking in there. So let's just think what we want to do inside this card group is we want to map through this data structure, and we want to return, okay, as a result of that map, a collection of cards where each card has been constructed with the data from one of these elements. All right, that's the general idea. So how do we do that? Okay, what we do is we say this dot contacts, right, which is going to refer to this field. Then we can say map, and that's because map is defined in ES6 on all arrays. Okay, it's a built-in function. And now we're going to use our, we're going to define a function that we pass to the mapping function, okay, which takes each element of the map, of the array, and returns something. Right, so we're taking an array of x objects and returning array of card objects. So we're going from objects to cards. Okay, so the parameters are going to be a card no, sorry, not a card, a contact and a index. And it turns out that map has an implicit second argument. So when you call map, if you just pass one, if you just have one parameter in your function, it'll pass it the element, each element in turn of the array. But if you have a two-argument function, the second one is going to be an index indicating the position in the array that this particular element is. And that's really useful because we want to return a contact, and we need, for when we have a group of React elements, all one after each other, React wants each element to have a unique key. That's how it can manipulate the virtual DOM. Okay, and okay, contact equals contact, and then we got that. Okay, and we don't know about contact here, so we need to import it. So import let's do it this way. Import contact from where are we exactly? This context from / components contact. Okay, and then this is unhappy. It should occur. This should be moved up. So I'll move it up. That's a nice Option Shift up arrow. Moves things up. Okay. All right, so now we're going to map through all of the elements of this array, and we're going to invoke the contact, or we're going to return a React contact component where we've passed index as the value of the key property, contact as the value of the contact property. All right, when you're done, the list contacts page should look like this. Okay. Well, let's see. Wait, where are we? Bummer. Okay, doesn't look anything like that. In fact, we've got an error, and in our console, we see a whole bunch of stuff here. Let's go to the top. Always good to just go up to the top to see what the highest level message is. And it says React create element type is invalid, expected a string for built-in components or a class function for composite components, but you got undefined. You likely forgot to export your component from the file it's defined in. Or you might have mixed up default and named imports. Okay, that's the key phrase. Okay, because I guarantee you this is going to happen to you. It happens to me all the time. Okay, mixing up default and named imports. Okay, and remember, I had a whole screencast on this. You might want to look at it. All right, so when we have a export that's a default, like contact, export default. See, there's the default right there. Then when we import it, we have to import it without the curly braces. It has to be imported like that. Okay? On the other hand, let's look at API stuff. Now, this is not a default. Export cont stuffs. Okay? It's not a default export, which means that when you import it, you have to use curly braces. Okay? So default, okay, defaults, no curly braces. But non-default, named, they call them named exports, non-default, you don't see the default keyword here, you got to use curly braces. Okay? It's just a syntactic thing, and unfortunately, it doesn't detect it at compile time or, via code analysis. It really should. if IntelliJ was great, it would like ESLint would have an error right here. That would be awesome. But the good news is, okay, when you make this mistake, and then I just try to generate the mistake again, all right, and you look up to the top, okay, you'll see this little phrase. If you keep reading all this other stuff up here, oh my God, what does that mean? I don't understand. And then at the very end of the error message, you might have mixed up defaulted name and ports. If you see that, that's the error. That's the thing you got to look for. Okay? So it says check the render method of list contacts. Cool. All right, so now it's pointing us right where we need to go. Render method of list contacts. Let's look at the render method of list contacts. Here it is. What are we rendering in here? Okay, well, we got a container. That's probably fine. Car group, that's probably fine. That's all semantic UI stuff. We can't get that wrong. The only thing we can get wrong is the component that we wrote, which was contact. All right, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to fix it. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize on behalf of JavaScript, ECMAScript 6, and React for this problem. But I don't know what else to say. Okay, cool. Here it is. Oop, Kim Binstead no longer has her photo there. Doggone it, Kim Binstead. So let's see. I have a feeling. Let's just verify. Yeah, doggone it. Okay. Kim Binstead. Let's find a picture of her. Images. That looks good. All right. Copy image address. I'll fix this in the web page. Okay, so let's do that, and let's see if now life is good. There we go. She's back. Okay. So one thing that's not kind of cool is that these things aren't centered, and so to fix that, what we do is we go back to contact, and we say card centered, I believe. And there we go. Once it's re-rendered and we're looking in our console, nothing bad going on here. Everything looks good there. And so we check for ESLint errors, okay? Because this looks just like that. Looks pretty good. So let's go look for ESLint errors. We go back to here, we exit Meteor, we say Meteor npm run start. No, we don't say that. Come on, Philip. Control C. Control C. Okay, Meteor npm run lint. Okay, good. No ESLint errors. And when our page renders correctly, Control C stop Meteor. We already had to do that in order to do ESLint. Stop your timer, note your time, 23:45. I'll run it up to 24 minutes. Commit and push your list contact once page with the message list contact page mockup finished in n minutes. So we'll go back to GitHub. Here are the pages that we've changed. That looks good. So we say list contact page mockup finished in 24 minutes. Commit locally to this branch, and then we push to GitHub. So now list contacts page 1 is on GitHub. Let's go back to the instructions. Okay. I still say less than 20 minutes. I took 24. I don't know. I was probably talking a lot. You should probably try to do it in less than 25 minutes would be my recommendation. and then do it again, right? So do round two. That just means going back to master, right? So if you go back to master, you will, at this point, then you will be reverting back to digits right before we started this WOD. So the landing page will be updated, but none of this list contact stuff will be done. Okay? So hope that was useful to you, and I'll see you next time.